A quorum being present, this town meeting is called to order. If willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag? We don't have a flag. We don't have a flag? We'll have to... All right, we'll do it anyway. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll get right into it. Business under Article 8, Mr. Maltese. Didn't even notice this.
Good evening, town meeting members. Thank you for being here tonight. Tonight, I will be presenting the contents of Article 8. As part of the FY22 capital plan, this town meeting approved $1.3 million for the purchase of a new ladder truck for our fire department. The ladder truck that was scheduled to be replaced is from 2008 and has outlived its useful life. In fact, over the last 3 years, we have spent over $72,000 maintaining our current ladder truck. This is our only ladder truck, and it is a critical piece of equipment for our fire department to be able to respond to life safety emergencies in our town. The town issued a purchase order for our ladder truck in March of 2022 from Seagrave. Seagrave is based in Wisconsin, and it is a reputable manufacturer of fire apparatuses. In fact, it is probably one of 3 manufacturers for these type of vehicles in the country. We have 5 other Seagrave vehicles in our fleet, in our fire department fleet. This summer, the CEO of Seagraves reached out to our fire chief and myself and communicated in writing and through their legal department that due to global supply chain issues, the cost to produce the ladder truck had increased dramatically. Over several meetings with the CEO, the fire chief and I were able to negotiate several additional benefits to the town, ensuring that the ladder truck will be delivered on favorable terms without delay. Specifically, we negotiated an extension of the warranty on the truck from 2 years to 3 years. This warranty is essentially a bumper-to-bumper, as we call it in our world, and it covers all aspects of the ladder truck. We firmly believe that this extension will result in significant deferred cost to the town. We also negotiated a $25,000 parts voucher that the town can use starting on July 1st, 2024, and it can be used on any Seagrave fire vehicle. Most importantly, we negotiated a $100 per day penalty if the ladder truck is not delivered by May 31st, 2024. This penalty is important to us to ensure prompt delivery of this ladder truck. We are happy to report that the Parker Roof project is now fully complete and has come under budget. The Parker Roof project was bonded at 0.87% interest in 2021, which is a significant shift from where we are today as a market, as an economy. We proposed using the surplus from the Parker Roof project to fund the needed monies for this ladder truck. We have consulted with our legal counsel and our bond counsel, and we have confirmed that this transfer can take place with town meeting approval. Funding this article will give our fire department the needed tools to respond to any life safety emergency in our town. Thank you.
FinCom report, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sullivan, Precinct 7, and member of the FinCom Committee. At our meeting on October 11th, the Finance Committee voted 9-0 to recommend the contents of this article to town meeting.
Further discussion? None appearing. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor, please raise your cards. All those opposed? And the motion carries. Business under Article 9, Mr. Maltese. Oh. Ms. Wellman, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jane Wellman. I'm your Director of Operation. It is my pleasure to see all of you again in person and to present to town meeting Article 9. The purpose of the article is to appropriate $200,000 from free cash to build a municipal gravel parking lot on Grove Street. In October 2021, town meeting approved the purchase of the parcel known as Lot 5 to allay significant safety concerns with people parking along Grove Street to access town forest trails. The new parking lot will have 17 spaces, including 2 ADA accessible spaces, a 6-foot wide walkway on the lot, and a guardrail along Grove Street. It is important for town meeting to know that our legislative delegation secured a $150,000 earmark for the project. So in effect, this article is seeking an additional $50,000 over that earmark to fully fund the project.
All set. FinCom report, Mr. Carnahan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Carnahan, Finance Committee. At our meeting on October 11th, the Finance Committee voted 9-0 to recommend the substance of this article to town meeting.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes. Ms. Moore?
Martha Moore, Chair of the Conservation Commission and a member of Town Meeting Precinct 8. On January 25th, 2023, the Conservation Commission voted 5-0 to approve the plans to build this parking lot. We feel it provides a public benefit and protects the wetlands by giving people a place to park that does not cause erosion and pollution to run into the MESA protected wetland next to Grove Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? None appearing. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor, please raise your cards. And those opposed? The motion carries. Business under Article 10, Mr. Maltese.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Ryan Percival, Town Engineer. I'll be presenting Article 10. The purpose of this article is to request for additional funds to help alleviate inflation that we're seeing specifically in our road paving program. We're not able to pave as many roads as we used to as liquid asphalt prices increase, labor costs go up, trucking goes up, everything that's related to oil or gas, which I'm sure you see at the gas pump. As of 2023, the town's current paving budget consists of approximately $600,000 in state Chapter 90 funding and a local share of $425,000. This roughly equates to approximately $1 million per year. Now, when we pave roads and we have roads, we analyze these roads in town based on a pavement condition index, which is basically a grading for the roadway. To maintain our current PCI index, which is roughly around an 80, we would have to see an increase from $1 million per year annually to 1.3 million just to keep us on average over the next 10 years. You can go to the next slide. What you'll see here is a graph that shows these projections through our forecasted model that we have through our pavement management system. You can see the green is the $1 million a year, roughly is starting to go down as we forecast out over the next 10 years. The blue line is what sort of maintains where we're at. What we're looking to do under this article is to do a one-time only addition of $300,000. This would come out of the 40R Smart Growth Fund, and that is the purpose of this article.
You all set?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. McDonough, the FinCom report?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe McDonough, Finance Committee. At a meeting on October 11th, the Finance Committee voted to recommend this article to town meeting 9-0.
Thank you. Further discussion? Oh, yes. Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Barry Berman, Precinct 6. I can certainly appreciate the cost of anything oil-related going up, and certainly will support, the additional $300,000 to fill in this fiscal year budget for that line item. Can we assume that going forward in next year's budget and after that, that will, instead of budgeting $1 million, that we're going to budget the 1.3 or more? I know a lot of it depends on how much we get in Chapter 90 and we backfill, but is it in the plan to basically ask for more money for roadway improvements going forward in future budgets?
Yes.
So I think the plan moving forward is to get us through this paving season as we speak, and then look and see what Chapter 90 is going to do over the next year or so, and if that will increase. At that point, we probably will shift to have that discussion on moving towards this projection on what we're seeing as inflation, may calm down, whatever it is. But the goal was, let's just do it in sort of just an injection right now at this moment, and then take a breath and see what happens. And then I'm sure if we need to address that, we'll be back in front of this group.
Further discussion? Yes. Mr. Sasso?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sasso, Precinct 2. I guess first, if I can just ask, and I realize this may be more than what town meeting wants to know, but can you just give us a perspective of what PCI actually is and how you calculate it and what it actually translates to in terms of the quality of the roads? And then I guess my follow-up question would be is how does that compare with what other communities use as benchmarks? Are we better? Are we worse? Kind of where do we stand?
That's a great question. I'll try to keep it really short because I can sort of geek out over this. But we had a really good, I think, a really good meeting with the select board maybe about a couple months ago, back in September. You can go back and look at that. That gives a lot of information if I don't touch upon a lot of it. But the PCI basically comes down to what we call sort of a grade of a road. And it does go from 0 to 100, 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. We sit roughly around an 80. That's good. That's very good. Even in the high 70s is good, and that's really where you want to shoot for. The breakdown at PCI comes from 9 different distress categories that we use, so cracking, potholes, all of that. And they get weighted based on what type of distress it is. So there's 4 major distresses and there's 5 less major distresses. And that gets weighted, and that's where the PCI comes from. The PCI is then used in a highly technical deterioration curve that shows that deterioration over the years. That then gets put into a forecasted model where we see sort of that cost-benefit breakdown. And that's really where we kind of want to strive for not being 100 because we're not spending our money really efficiently. And we don't really want to be really low because, again, we're not spending it efficiently on that sort of logarithmic curve as it goes down. So you really want to be right at that break point on that curve line, which is around an 80. It's the same benchmark that most towns use. PCI is a general industry term that we use. So the town's doing very well. But again, we do these models every 10 years. We take a look at them. And we're starting to project down just a little bit. So that's why we're here in front of the group.
So so at least from my understanding, it kind of related to like how often a road is used and how often you would then repave that road, and then you kind of score that based on what a lesser road might be used, and it kind of gets weighted in that?
Correct. So when we go through and do a paving list, it's highly complex. There's a lot that goes into it. We use our pavement management software, which is GIS-based. We take into account all these different things for the PCI. Part of what is in that PCI is volume of traffic, speed of traffic, where is it on that curve? Is it a very low PCI? If it's a very low PCI, it's going to cost a lot of money to replace. So we try not to do a lot of those roads, and we try to do a blend of them. But again, the major roads will come up in that model most often, right? Because that's where you get your highest bang for your buck. So we then take a step back and we use sort of our engineering analysis and judgment to then factor in logistics, gas company, any utility work that we do, and we try to then manipulate the roads based on that as well. So it's pretty high, it's pretty complex, it's not perfect, and it's a lot of moving parts logistically to come up with that list.
Okay. Just a follow-up question. So we're proposing, again, as you said, for this year, to take money from the 40R Smart Growth Stabilization Account. How much will be left in that if that's then taken?
$177,000.
175. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? None appearing? Are we ready for the vote? This requires a 2/3 vote. Do I still have my tellers from last week? Let's see, who do we have? Yeah, Mr. Sasso and Mr. O'Neill. Let's see, Ms. Binder and Mr. Barnes. All right, all those in favor of the motion under Article 10, please rise.
Twenty-four.
24.
29.
29.
46.
46. 41. 41. And those opposed, please rise.
Zero.
0, 0,
Zero.
0, 0. Okay, 140 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion carries. Business under Article 11. Mr. Maltese? Oh, nope.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Matt Cornelis, Assistant Town Manager. I'm here to present the contents of Article 11. Article 11 would allow the town to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Section 19K, Chapter 41. This allows the town to give additional compensation not to exceed $1,000 to town clerks who are certified municipal clerks. This designation is a benefit to the town, ensuring consistent operation of critical functions such as vital records, elections, and many others. In addition, the additional compensation serves as a motivation to the town clerk to pursue training and help them become more specialized in their field. To qualify, a person must be an incumbent town clerk at the time of application, a full member of the association for a minimum of 3 years, subscribe to a code of ethics for the Town Clerks Association, and complete coursework prior to the examination. The town clerk must also continue the coursework to maintain the certification throughout their tenure. Thank you.
Bylaw Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jesse Arnold, Precinct 6, Bylaws Committee Chair. At our meeting on October 4th, the Bylaws Committee voted to recommend the content of this article to town meeting by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have a Finance Committee report? No, I didn't think so. Okay. Further discussion? None appearing. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor, please hold up your cards. Those opposed? And the motion carries. Business under Article 12. Ms. McCarthy moves that we indefinitely postpone the subject matter of Article 12. Is there a second? Second. I realize that Ms. Manning would like to speak on it. Ms. Manning, you're not a town meeting member, is that correct?
I am a town meeting.
Oh, you are? Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
All right. Hi, I'm Eileen Manning. I'm a Precinct 5 town meeting member and a member of the Reading Pickleball Players Association Board, and I'd like to read a statement from the board. RPPA was formed in January of this year to raise funds to help pay for dedicated lighted pickleball courts in town. When the courts in the Birch Meadow Phase 2 plan were removed out of concerns for noise and congestion, we tried to find an alternative site in town that would be acceptable to neighbors. In June, the Burbank Ice Authority made an informal offer to pave some of their parking lot and line it for pickleball. This seemed like an ideal situation, and we tried to act quickly to secure this location and get courts built in the 2024 construction season. We initiated a citizens petition to authorize funds for the construction of courts if agreements could be finalized, as the normal article development process would not have been completed in time. We shared this proposal with many town boards and committees who were not ready at that time to move forward with the plan, and with respect for their perspectives, we are withdrawing our citizens petition. We still believe that Simon's Way is the right place for courts and that there is sufficient and growing demand for more and dedicated courts in town, and we'll continue to advocate for that with our local boards. We will also continue to raise funds, and we currently have pledges for over $107,000 waiting for an approved location. Many of us in town love playing pickleball. It's easy to learn for all ages and abilities and has made a huge impact on many of the people playing it. If you don't play now, we hope that you will try it out. All right, thank you for your time.
Any further discussion on the motion to indefinitely postpone? Ms. Binder?
Angela Binder, Precinct 5. I'm the Vice Chair of the Recreation Committee and a member of SWAC. I have a question for the RPPA, and then comments will follow depending upon the answer. Is your intention to work with the Recreation Committee going forward, or is your intention to bring this back in April?
Ms. Manning?
Could you just repeat the end of that? Sorry, bring it back to...
So is your intention to drop this completely by tabling it, or is it your intention to table it now but bring back a citizen's petition in April?
We don't at this point have an intention to bring back a citizen's petition in April. You know, it's our goal to work with SWEC and with the Recreation Board. Does that answer the question?
It does. I just have a few comments.
Okay, keep in mind the motion before us is to indefinitely postpone, not to table. Go ahead.
To indefinite, okay. Yeah, essentially the same?
No.
Okay. So I'm happy that this is being indefinitely postponed. The motion has been made to indefinitely postpone. The Recreation Committee and I'm speaking for myself. I'm the Vice Chair of the Recreation Committee. And a member of SWEC. I'm speaking for myself. The Recreation Committee and the Recreation Department have spent several years working to find temporary and permanent homes for pickleball courts, double lining tennis courts, looking at different parks, and having meetings with constituents and abutters. It's not easy to find places for pickleball courts because of the sound. A lot of courts in other towns have been shut down. I was extremely disappointed to me that the RPPA decided not to work with the Recreation Committee and SWEC any longer, but submitted this warrant article. It sets a very bad precedent, I think, for sports organizations to appeal directly to town meeting and to not work with the Recreation Department. We have a very hardworking recreation staff and administration Jim and Jenna, who work very hard to balance competing interests for courts and field space, baseball, softball, lacrosse, tennis, pickleball, Birch Meadow renovations, a desire to add more programs for kids and adults with who are differently abled, and it sometimes is a real juggling act. Not everyone gets everything that they want when they want it, but what makes this all work is the knowledge that there is no bias.
Point of order. It's good, point well taken. The motion before us is indefinite postponement. You're voting whether or not to indefinitely postpone. So please direct your points to that.
So my point is that I have not decided how I will vote on this, and maybe some other people haven't either. And
I will point out, if you vote in favor of indefinite postponement, that means that this article is dead for this town meeting. If you vote against indefinite postponement, it means the same thing, because this is the main motion. So if you vote against it, it's still dead. So it really makes no difference.
the Recreation Department and committee are the best able to determine the recreational needs of the towns.
Again, please direct your arguments to whether or not this should be indefinitely postponed.
I'm going to vote against that because I would like to see a vote taken on the actual motion. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not appearing. The motion before us is to indefinitely postpone the substance of Article 12. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Those opposed, and the motion carries. Now, let's see, Ms. McCarthy moves that we take Article 2 from the table. Instructional motions. Is there a second? Second. Let's see. The first motion is by Mr. Zeke.
David Zeke, Precinct 5. So I submitted this instructional motion. Move that the town of Reading develop and implement a water sewer pricing structure that recognizes that multifamily residential. How's that? Better? Okay, sorry. Move that the town of Reading develop and implement a water sewer pricing structure that recognizes that multifamily residential housing comprises multiple family units and does not treat the facility as a single water user, even if there is only one water meter to the building. The town manager shall report the plan changes to the Reading's annual town meeting in April 2024, and the changes shall be implemented by July 2024. Okay. So, back up one. All right. So you may know that in June of this year that we've adopted a new tiered water rate structure as opposed to a flat water rate structure that we had before. And the purpose of this tiered rate structure is to create an incentive to conserve water and to also recognize that certain families, like elderly people who are living in their homes and small families and so forth, need a break on their water costs. And I'll show you that in a minute. The problem is that the structure, the way it's implemented, penalizes people who live in multifamily dwellings. Ostensibly, the new rate rewards lower water usage, but only if people live in their own house and not if they live in condos and apartments. And that's what this is about. Next one. Okay, so this is the water rate structure to give you the idea what we're talking about. There is a fee for water. There is a fee for the sewer. Nothing new there, right? But it varies depending on how much water you use. So the first couple of columns here, the start and end, this is cubic feet of water. So between 0 and 500 cubic feet of water, you would pay $10.75 per 100 cubic feet. for water and 1020 per 100 cubic feet for sewer. And this is 6% less than it would be, for a flat rate. And so here's the advantage if you're using a little bit of water. You can see it goes up. So Tier 2 happens to be the same. Tier 3 has gone from 6% deduction or to 3% increase, so you're paying more water between 1,000 and 2,500 cubic feet of water. And again, for level 4 and level 5. And level 5 is the top level. When you get to 4,000 cubic feet of water, you're paying the top rate and at a 10% premium. If you just kind of add all these up and you just get to level 5, just get to the threshold, that would be about $900 for the water. That's a lot of water actually for a single family. But in the case of multifamily housing, the building is being charged at the highest rate. And the reason is that there's typically one water meter for a building. So if there are 10 families living in the building, 30 families living in the building, their position on this chart is a function of all the water that everybody uses. And what that ends up meaning is basically that they're charged Tier 5 for everything. All right, next one. So this is just trying to illustrate this. So so if you have a water meter for your house, you have a couple people in your house for the same, excuse me, the single family case, you get charged a certain amount. If you have a different family has more people in the house, they'll use more water, they'll get charged more. Not just the volume of water they use, but the price of the water that they use will increase. If you've got somebody living alone, they'll end up paying less. But if you're in a multifamily situation, if you're in an apartment or you're in a condo, you still have one water meter, but now you've got all the water of everything of everybody in the building. And 20% of residents in Reading do live in these multifamily buildings. All right, next one. So this is an example. This is where I live. This is an example of how this plays out. The Postmark has 50 condominiums. So every vertical bar on this chart is the water use of one of those condominiums. That's unusual. The Postmark has facilities to actually measure water unit by unit. That's not typical. Normally there is no way to know how much water a particular apartment uses, and the way it's built into the rent or added to condo fees, it's not something that they can even really manage. But as you can see, now this is like a quarter's worth of water use data at the Postmark. And this breaks it out into the actual users at the Postmark for that quarter. So total water usage for that quarter is 33,800 cubic feet. 33,800 is a long way from 4,000, right? So the whole charge here is really going at that tier 5 rate. But if you average it out, if you look at what's the average user in the Postmark, their use is under 700 cubic feet, which would be a tier 2 in the chart, in the rate chart. So if these people lived in their own home, that's what they would be paying. That would be the price they'd be paying. It would be a tier 2 price. Nobody, so there are what, eight here people who were actually at tier 3. Nobody at tier 4. Nobody at tier 5. But the price for the condo water is tier 5 because it's based on what the sum of all those bars is, not what any particular one is. Okay. Next. So what's the problem? There's a couple of problems here that have been pointed out to me. First is that our software for our building, which is a very popular enterprise management software package, doesn't provide for figuring out what to do with multifamily housing. And it's because it's tied to the one water meter. However, if you go look at the software, like almost any, if you speak software, you know that a package that has an application programming interface has a window into how that works, and you can adjust things, you can read them, and you can write them. And also, this particular package produces, as I understand it, a common delimited file in the billing cycle near the end that you could pull up, you could actually produce it, go in and adjust the prices, and then put it back in. And so I think probably most of the people in this room could do that with an Excel spreadsheet. The other issue that was raised was we don't have the skills or tools to do it right. Well, that's a choice. I mean, it's not. I mean, we don't use that excuse for other departments. I mean, we can choose to fix this problem if we want to, and we can have the right solution if we want to, and of course I'm proposing that we do. I want to point out these are technical issues. This motion is not about the technical issues. The motion doesn't say anything about the water tier table, the tier rates. It doesn't attempt to change that at all, or even talk about it. It doesn't say anything specific about the billing system that we have or how that plays out. It's really asking to set a policy that we treat Reading residents fairly and equity, and that we treat somebody who's living in a multifamily unit the same way we would treat someone who owned their own home, as far as the way they're gonna get billed for software. Now, okay, I think that's right. Next one. So, I encourage you to vote yes on this motion. The state of Massachusetts says that tiered rate systems should take account of single-family versus multifamily units. No surprise. Our own select board realized and noted and stated when they adopted this tiered rate structure that we needed to do something to address the problem. And I think this motion will do it. So I urge you to vote for it.
Further discussion? Yes. Oh. Second. Oh, second. Okay, thank you. Further discussion? In the back? Is Alvarado?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Vanessa Alvarado, Precinct 5. Mr. Zeke, I'd like to make a friendly amendment, if you would be open to it, to read that, move that the Select Board consider a policy and then following the rest of your motion.
I'd prefer not to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. So then, Mr. Moderator, I would like to add that as an amendment to this, and then I have a statement as to why.
Can we get the exact wording again, just to make sure we have it up in front of
Sure.
everybody?
Can we just blow that up a little bit so everyone could see it, if that would be possible? Thank you. So move that instead of the town of Reading, I would ask that it say, move that the Select Board consider developing and implementing, et cetera. Okay. Thank you.
Is there a second to that? Yes, okay. Ms. Alvarado?
So I do have a statement explaining why. So I support the ideas and intentions behind this instructional motion. I believe the Select Board should look into the fairness of the issue of the tiered water rates. And when this issue was before the Select Board, I talked to members of the board when it was under discussion. So as a resident, I voiced my concern about the unfairness of the policy, as Mr. Zeke has explained it, and I do hope that they look into it further. However, as the instructional motion was originally presented, I do feel that it is outside of the scope of town meetings' duties and responsibilities. Per the charter and state law, our main responsibilities as town meeting members are very clear. We approve spending, debt, zoning, and the buying and selling of property. What's being asked in the original instructional motion is outside of the scope of those duties. So this amendment asks the select board to consider taking this action. It does not demand it of them, because we as town meeting members do not have that authority. If we pass the instructional motion as it is originally written, it elevates town meeting above the select board, and we are in fact equals with separate and distinct responsibilities in local government. The equivalent would be if the select board passed a motion demanding that the school committee consider or implement a particular type of curriculum for use in the schools. So I think it's important that we recognize these different bodies. So I would ask that you please consider supporting this amendment. Thank you.
All right, we now change to debating the proposed amendment. Is there discussion on the proposed amendment? Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Barry Berman, Precinct 6. I actually want to echo Vanessa's comments. It is the role of the Select Board to set water rates. And while Mr. Zeke did a great presentation, and I actually agree we should really be looking at kind of making these rates equitable, this was the first year that we had a tiered system. It's the role of the Select Board to do that, and this discussion shouldn't be happening at town meeting. It should be happening at the public hearing next time when the Select Board sets water rates. I'm going to support Vanessa's amendment because basically it's asking the Select Board to do what Ms. McCarthy said back when they set the rates that they were going to do anyway. Probably this whole conversation is superfluous, but since it's here, I just want to, sort of say, yes, we should be looking at this, and it sounds like the board is already committed to doing so. So I support the amendment, and then hopefully they'll take another look at it now that we have 1 year of a tiered water rate under our belts to kind of see if we can tweak this to make it a little fairer. Thank you.
Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Yes, in the last row.
Alicia Williams, Precinct 8. I just want to ask our select board, my memory is a little foggy. Didn't we have a discussion? Did we have any thoughts? Did we vote on this? I don't remember. I'm wondering if somebody can speak to that.
Keep in mind we are debating the amendment right now.
I want some clarity of what has kind of historically happened.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Jackie McCarthy, Precinct 7 and Chair of the Select Board. Yes, the Select Board Chair voted, or the Select Board voted on tiered water rates in June of this year. The element of multifamily apportionment among units in a multifamily building was not part of our vote.
Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Yes, Mr. Ventura?
Mark Ventura, Precinct 2. Did I read earlier, and do I understand correctly, that currently, because multifamily housing, we didn't consider it, because obviously that tiered rate didn't.
Again, we're talking about the amendment right now.
It is about the amendment because, well, if we're not in compliance, then the Select Board would have to act so we are in compliance, right? Or I don't know. It would have to happen, I guess, if we're not in compliance. Or is it just a recommendation?
Is that a question to me?
To anyone. I don't know.
Well, the amendment would turn a direction into a recommendation.
Okay.
Right. That's it.
Mr. Zeke?
Can we get a legal opinion on this? On whether
Just 1 second.
town meeting can direct a change to a policy.
Well, keep in mind that instructional motions are none of them are mandatory. They're all instructional.
I know,
They don't carry any.
The point was made that we are beyond our scope and authority.
I don't want to speak for town council, but it was my question. Who has the the legal authority to set water rates. I wrote him a note at the start of this meeting, and the select board is the body in Reading who sets the water rates.
We had a point of order back there. I didn't mean to ignore you, but what was that? Okay. Okay, further discussion on the proposed amendment? Yes. Mr. Talbot?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Talbot, Precinct 5. Can you all hear me? Yes, are we good? Okay. So to the moderator's point, all instructional motions are just that. They're non-binding. So I appreciate Mr. Zeke bringing this forward, and I encourage others to bring, I say this as somebody who's about to make one. I think it's really important for town meeting to come up and people to bring up ideas, bring their research in. I think that's very much to the spirit of what town meeting is about. And anything where we try to throw cold water on people who are willing to do the research and bring things before us, I think that's, we shouldn't do that. I think maybe not all instructional motions are perfect, but we learn things from them. I've learned things from instructional motions. I think it adds some life to the meetings. Not everything goes through a handful of gatekeepers. So I just thank Mr. Zeke for bringing this forward. I could take or leave the amendment. I'll probably vote against it on the spirit of it, just because I think more of us should come forward, do the research, bring things up, whatever they might be. They might not be perfect, but it adds a lot of value. So thank you, and I'll vote against this amendment.
Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Oh, yes, wait on the end. Ms. Downing?
Mary Ann Downing, Precinct 4. I guess I don't know if I'm proposing a friendly amendment to Ms. Alvarado's proposal, but the second paragraph makes no sense in light of her proposed changes to the first paragraph. So I don't know whether we would want to add, and whether she would be okay with shall report, plan changes, if any, or take away a deadline, because we're going to be asking or instructing a town manager to do something that a select board may or may not do by that deadline. I don't know if Ms. Alvarado has a thought on that.
Okay, what exactly do you want to change now?
I guess you could change if any, and then the changes shall be implemented would have to be taken out, because if you could say, and the changes shall be considered, when water rates are being discussed. Something like that, okay, Vanessa? I mean.
While we're typing that in, does anybody have a problem with that being part of the proposed amendment? Okay, now let's just get the wording right.
Yeah.
We all set?
Yeah, because I don't think we even need to list what the select board is going to consider water rates anyway in July, so why list what they're obligated to do as part of an amendment? Thank you.
Okay, further discussion on the proposed amendment as amended. Yeah, okay, Jeff, and then we have another one up there too after Mr. Corum.
Jeffrey Corum, Precinct 7. I would like to suggest that we approve this, Ms. Alvarado's amendment here. And that, the point of an instructional motion is to instruct a town body, and the original motion said to instruct the town, which is not really a town body. So it really should be moved that the select board consider this. So I will vote in favor of this amendment.
Thank you. And up in the corner, I saw a hand. Yes, in the very corner. No? Yes, yeah. Oh, you're all set? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Yes. Ms. Janowski.
Karen Janowski, Precinct 2. Thank you so much for this presentation, because it does seem like it's something that was an oversight, and I am wondering why the Select Board didn't consider this at the time when the water rates were originally set.
Are we talking about the amendment?
How we want the Select Board to consider this in the future. I'm just curious why it wasn't considered when it was originally proposed.
Ms. McCarthy?
Jackie McCarthy, Precinct 7. We did hear from the public, including members of the public who live in multifamily units. The fact of the matter is as a board, we decided to implement the tiers without the multifamily issue because I think we had consensus that the tiers was a good policy for some of the conservation and cost management issues. But as Mr. Zeke quoted in the attachment to his instructional motion, I did make the comment that this was something that I would, for one, would like Select Board to look at because the fact of the matter is we have a not insignificant portion of our housing stock as multifamily. So
you're planning to consider it in the future anyway?
Point of order.
Are we speaking about the amendments?
Good point. We are speaking strictly on the amendment right now,
Yes.
not the main
Because it's
motion.
about having the Select Board consider it, and I just am curious why the Select Board didn't consider it initially.
Ms. Janowski has the floor, please.
Yeah, I just,
Yes.
And we did consider it initially. It was not part of what we voted on when we implemented the tiers.
okay, thank you for explaining that.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Yes. Mr. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Haley, Precinct 7. I did consider David's presentation when he came before the Select Board. I'm sympathetic with the presentation then as it is now. The main reason I voted against the tiered water rates.
Again, we're talking about the proposed amendment right now. Okay.
I voted against the tiered water rates for this exact scenario that's being discussed right now. I didn't think it was equitable, and here we are again. Regardless of how this goes, in the spring, it's going to be part of my discussion again, regardless of how you vote tonight.
Further discussion on the proposed amendment? Not appearing. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor of the proposed amendment, please raise your cards. And those opposed? And the motion carries. The amendment is now part of the main motion. Now we're back to discussion on the main motion. Ms. Binder.
Angela Binda, Precinct 5. Thank you, Mr. Zeke, for your presentation. I agree that something needs to be done. I also think that the Select Board acted, I agree with the decision they made, and sometimes it takes a year or two to work out all the kinks. And I hope that that happens. I hope that something is done about this. I'm wondering, I'm not exactly sure what you're proposing because it doesn't appear that there is there a mechanism to find out who is using how much water? Or are you just proposing that it be divided evenly amongst the, all of the units? And I'm also wondering, I don't know, is this something, it doesn't seem like there are individual meters in your building. Is this something that the CPDC might consider in some way, that new housing projects going through are required to have this to avoid this issue? So I think that it might be something for the Select Board, but it might also be something for CPDC. Is that something that you've considered or that's been thought of?
Mr. Zeke?
Yes, I mean, it's highly uncommon for there to be information about the water inside the building. Postmark has it. We don't actually use it in our internal cost allocations. But even if you know that, even if you know perfectly what everybody in the building is using, that has zero effect on the price of the water, because the price of the water is being determined at the town water meter, right? So it doesn't help. I mean, you can just check and know what you're paying, I guess. But you can't really, it can't really fix the problem. There are enough buildings in this town already that have single water meters that could not really be retrofitted to put a bunch of new water meters in the building. So I think while that would be a desirable, thing for, you have every unit has its own electric meter, every unit has its own gas meter, but not water. It would be nice if every unit had its own gas meter, and then this whole system would play out that way, the way it was supposed to, and the way the tiered water rates are supposed to work. But that's really not an option for us.
Okay, I do believe that the select board wanted to move forward with something because they felt it was the right thing to do, and I believe that in good faith that they will look at this, but I will support your instruction motion.
Further discussion on the instructional motion? Yes, Mr. Tomaszewski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And thank you, Gena Pilavsky, Precinct 7. Dave, thank you for putting together this presentation. I believe that the select board, when they originally voted on the tiered rates, were doing the right thing. It's moving us in the right direction. I believe one of the select board members actually said that. And it's not perfect, but what you're proposing, this strong encouragement for the board to address the remaining 20% of the population, to address their water meter rates. I think it's a good thing, and it'll bring us closer to where we need to be. So I appreciate you putting this together, showing it to the town meeting to keep the ball rolling. And I will strongly support this instructional motion. Thank you.
Yes, in the corner. Yep.
Hi, David Panett, Precinct 1, and I just want to say that I certainly sympathize with Mr. Zeke about his plight with Postmark. But from a technical perspective, I support the tiered water rates, but and I also understand if you analogize it one way, I do not believe that Postmark should be charged the same way that Home Depot is charged for water. They might use about the same amount of water, but Home Depot is a single entity. Postmark has a meeting of several different condominiums. So what you're proposing here, I understand what you're proposing, but you propose no correction as to how you're going to correct that. The other thing is that this really is not a water rate issue. This is a mechanical issue where you do not have individual water meters. If you had individual water meters for whether it's a 2-family house, a 5-family house, a 12-family house, or a 40-unit condominium, you would be able to then make it fair for the amount of water that each individual unit utilizes. Your condominium complex chose not to put individual water meters in, so you don't get individual water bills. You have the building. So we now have a tiered water rate, so that is how that building is charged for the tiered water rate. It's for the volume that's used, not the individual amounts of water that are used by each condominium. So at this point, I don't see how you are actually going to correct this other than making individual water meters for every user in the town. Vis-a-vis the same thing for electric meters, gas meters. That would make it equitable. And I understand certainly that you shouldn't be charged the same way as a large industrial complex that's maybe a manufacturing plant for a housing stock. And I understand that, and I sympathize with that, but, you know, what is your proposal to ameliorate this, correct it, and then move forward? Are you asking for the tiered water rate to be thrown out? How are you actually going to solve this issue, other than laying it back into the lap of the select board, which it certainly goes there, but what's the fix?
Mr. Zeke?
What I would do is average the water use in a multifamily housing. I would look at the total volume, divide by the number of units, if there's 10 units, 20 units, and use that value, that volume of water to set the price. I think that could then be, that number could then be inserted into the billing software, either through the application programming interface or through the spreadsheet that I mentioned. So I think there are mechanisms to do it. I didn't put that in the motion because if there are other approaches that accomplish the goal, I think those should be available to the town, to us. I'm not interested in dictating, exactly how it's implemented, although I'd be happy to do that if somebody asked me. But
Ms. Herrick?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Karen Herrick, Precinct 8, and a member of the Select Board. I do recall our discussions in June, and I was happy that we decided to move forward with these tiered rates. I knew at that time it was not a perfect solution, and I certainly understand where the proponent of the instructional motion is coming from, and although I wasn't quoted in the Chronicle, I do believe I expressed my commitment to seeking out additional ways to make sure that we provide equitable water charges for our residents. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, in the back row.
John Sullivan, Precinct 5, postmark.
Okay.
Just want to correct David.
I'll catch you afterwards. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. Go ahead.
Just wanted to correct David when you said the postmark chose not to have water meters installed. The town chose not to install water meters. There are water meters installed. The town does not read them. Yes.
Yes.
Phil Dardino, Precinct 3. Move the question.
The question has been moved. Do we have a second? Second. This requires a 2/3 vote, so I will ask my tellers to help out. All those in favor of ending debate, please rise.
Twenty.
20.
35.
35.
24.
24. 39. 39. Those opposed to ending debate, please rise.
Three.
3.
3.
3.
2.
2. 2. Vote being 118 in the affirmative and 10 in the negative, the question has been moved, and we will now go straight to the vote. So this requires a majority vote. So all those in favor of the instructional motion, please raise your cards. And those opposed? And the motion carries. Our second instructional motion is from Ms. Childress. Is Ms. Childress here? Oh, here she is. I'm sorry. Yep, no problem. I just didn't see him.
Is this, can you hear me, or do I have to adjust the height? Okay. Okay, thank you. The first thing I'd like to say is somebody on the town website, thank you for the form, but when making an instructional motion, I did not know what I was doing, and there were no directions. And I think some kind of a background sheet would help in the future. Basically, I think what's in here has been discussed, and I don't even know if the motion is set up right. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, what are you trying to accomplish?
I was basically concerned about a couple of things. One was the way the motion was worded. If you build for leasing strictly, a question of whether it would be an antitrust issue. If you build it for service, for the service costs, that's not an issue. I'm trying to remember back to when I did this. And I think the other things have been discussed in the whole thing. So you can just remove the first part, and I think the second part will be addressed when they do the billing.
So are you withdrawing your motion, or?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
think-
Okay.
Okay, I think
Okay, thank you.
the issues are addressed. Thank you.
All right. All right, our third instructional motion is Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Talbot, Precinct 5. And there is a amended version of the motion that hopefully can come up, and then we can look at these slides.
Closer to the mic.
Yeah, there's an amended version of the instructional motion that's shorter and more to the point than what you have in your packet. You'll be happy to know. Trying to keep things tight. The request is, should I read it or should somebody else?
You can read the,
Okay,
read the motion, just so, since it's new, I want to make sure everybody knows what it
Okay,
is.
so this has to do with the.
Could you read the motion first, just because?
Move to request that the Select Board and Town Manager, which we can tweak later per the previous discussion, develop a study and a written opinion to be sent to the CPDC prior to its site plan decision on the McDonald's at 413 Main Street about impacts to public safety, including pedestrian safety, vehicle safety and crashes, and speedy movement of emergency vehicles through South Main Street if vehicular traffic to and through the McDonald's site were to double as a result of McDonald's building a new double drive-through restaurant at the site of the existing single drive-through restaurant.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Talbot.
Thank you. You can go back to the first slide then on the deck, and thank you very much for accommodating the change. Louder? Thanks, Bob. Okay. Okay, first slide. So some backdrop. This is an exceptional site in many, many ways. The area that we're talking about is, somebody can correct me, the worst traffic in the town of Reading. A recent traffic study said that the intersection of Main and Washington and Main and Ash has an F level of traffic, which is the worst, which means regular clogged traffic at peak times of day already. That's one of the exceptional reasons. Another exceptional is that John Weston, the chair of the CPDC, stated his opinion at a recent meeting that this McDonald's that exists there now is the single largest generator of traffic in downtown Reading. The data doesn't exist, but John is a transportation expert in his private, in his work, and he is the chair of a CPDC, a longtime member. I believe him when he says the McDonald's that exists now is the worst generator of traffic already in downtown Reading. That picture is something we've all seen a million times driving through there as we wait at those traffic lights through many cycles as cars try to turn in and out of that site. This is just typical. We're all used to it because it's been there for half a century. It's about to get a whole lot worse. And I'll tell you about some of the other exceptional reasons of this site. Please go to the next slide. This McDonald's is the only drive-through advertised on I-95, the only drive-through facility in the town of Reading that is advertised on I-95, which of course has millions of vehicles per year per week going down it. That's just one of the exceptional ways. Please go to the next slide. McDonald's is another exceptional point, the largest fast food restaurant in the world. It has also the largest number of downloads of its mobile app in the country, with 40 million downloads in last year alone. If you do some simple back-of-the-envelope math, this means if there's 40 million that downloaded it in 2022, and whoever downloaded it this year and the previous years, you might have 1 in 3 cars in the United States with the McDonald's app on the phone in the car. I downloaded the thing. It's pinging me all the time. Free fries on Friday. Go to 413 Main Street. You can be on I-95. You can be anywhere. This is new. This is a new trend. It's going to make things a lot worse. That's another way that things are changing down there. Next slide, please. Now, the site plan. It is designed to double the traffic relative to what's happening now. There's 3 elements to this. Number 1, where there's 1 kiosk right now, there will be 2 kiosks. Where there is 1 window now, there will be 3 windows. 1 where you pay, which is quick, and 2 where you can pick up. Whereas right now, there's one way to exit the site. There will be two ways to exit the drive-through. Instead of just going straight out to Main, they want to make it, you loop around and go out Bolton as well. Why? Because they want to double the amount of cars that go to and through this McDonald's. It is plain as day. Yet they came into some of our boards and say, oh no, we simply want to let people move over there and maybe park and eat. And they say all kinds of things in the meetings. And I'll get to what their traffic study said in a minute. But this is another way it's exceptional. They want to double the traffic. Okay? Next slide, please. These are some other things. I've already pointed out about the mobile app. The company is heavily promoting delivery services. So Uber Eats and the other ones. These are all new. They're encouraging more delivery services to use McDonald's, which means they don't have to go and order and pay. These are just cars going there to grab the food and deliver it out. That's more traffic. The app is more traffic. The company has also recently purchased companies with new technologies to speed people through the kiosks and to speed voice ordering. And again, all of this moves many, many, many more vehicles through. So you could see how there's a doubling or even beyond a doubling. These are all why this is just out of the ballpark of anything we've seen in downtown Reading. Next slide, please. Now, what did McDonald's come in and say to our bodies, our town boards? They said, well, changes will be negligible. Why? Because they go to a traffic reference manual and it says, well, a restaurant of a certain square footage has X number of cars. This building, the new building, will have a little bit more square footage. And according to the traffic reference, based on square footage, it'll be only a little bit more. It's absurd, because that has nothing to do with any of the factors that I've just discussed. Absolutely nothing. Now, CPDC is doing a great job. They have certain constraints on what they can ask for and what they can demand. They evaluate the site plan. We need to assume that a doubling is going to occur, and we need to understand as a town what this is going to mean for our downtown and for public safety. That is why this article asks to escalate this up a notch versus the typical in-the-box, if you will, site plan review, and ask our town hall to go and do a safety study on what happens when traffic, already at an F level, now faces a fast food restaurant for the next half a century that is engineered to double and more how much traffic is going to that restaurant. That is what this is about. And I think that's about it.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, in the far corner.
Thank you. Maureen Hurley, Precinct 3. I find a lot of fallacies in some of these facts or things that you're putting up here. McDonald's, people are going to go to McDonald's or they're not going to go to McDonald's. It's a matter of how efficiently McDonald's is going to handle their customer base that's going in there every hour, every day, every week. As we know from the Bagel World situation, that it's going to be the same amount of people. Bagel World figured out a way to move it a little more efficiently. They're not Chick-fil-A, but they're trying to figure it out. Secondly, I take a bigger issue with McDonald's being pegged as the problem down in that area. I live down the street from there. I've lived there for 24 years. The problem of all the traffic, it's not McDonald's drawing the traffic. It's the fact that people cannot take a left turn out of Market Basket. Let's talk about the number of cars that go to Market Basket every single day. And they come out and come down a street that...
We're talking about McDonald's.
Right, I'm talking about the whole area.
Yeah, we're talking about McDonald's.
So it's relevant. So all these cars are getting pushed to come down by the McDonald's passage and go take a right. If you live in Reading and you go to Market Basket, you need to go down by the McDonald's intersection to get back. So McDonald's is not the problem. The problem is that entire intersection that used to be gated off. Cars didn't even have access to go from the current Walmart into where the gym, the former gym and the Market Basket area. That was gated off. You couldn't drive there. That got opened up. We had the flow of grocery traffic, and then there was nothing. I think maybe they added a stop sign. So I think we need to zoom out. It's almost like trying to blame a drop of water for a tsunami. So I have some issues in what I'm reading in this instructional motion.
Okay, well, if I may
Mr. Talbot?
respond briefly, may I? So certainly, there's many, many things driving traffic downtown. I'm simply quoting the CPDC chair that among all of these factors, of which you correctly mentioned some, McDonald's, according to the chair of the CPDC, is the single largest traffic generator in Reading. As to it being a fallacy, well, it's not a fallacy that it's going from one way to order to two, from one ordering window to two, and from one exit where you could drive out after going through to two. Those are doublings.
They are, but it just because there's more windows does not mean that there would be more people going to McDonald's because they have 2 windows. And secondly, I understand it's the opinion of one person of CPDC. However, I think if you were to clock out how many people are coming from the Walker's Brook area to cut back because they have no other way to access Reading except for that intersection,
Yep.
I think you would see that the problem is not the McDonald's drive-through, respectfully.
Before others go, I just want to add one thing, okay? That the information this company has given us is only based on the increase in a square footage of a building, and that's absurd. The square footage of the building has nothing to do with it when 70% or more of the traffic going to the fast food joints is from the drive-throughs. So the fallacy is not coming from these data points. It's coming from what the applicant has told us to date.
Mr. Ventura?
Mark Ventura, Precinct 2. I actually agree with her. When I go to Market Basket, I have to go through there, and it's a pain. But I think this is also a consequence of rapidly increasing our population with all these high-density housing. That's also impacting that. And so we will have more people going to the McDonald's. I mean, that's just a reality of it. So I don't know how much. I think an important traffic study should be done. I agree with that. And if it's not adequate to the CPDC, something, I agree they should look at it because that intersection is a nightmare. But I 100% agree with that it's a combination of things. So that's just really what I wanted to add. But it's not a function of doubling the drive-through is going to double the amount of people going there. I'm not going to get a ping on 128 on my way home from work in traffic and go, oh, I can take another half hour and get a free fry. That's a little embellishment. Thank you.
Mr. DeRezzo?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tony DeRezzo, Precinct 3, and the Vice Chair of the CPDC. Dave and I have been talking about this. I believe I can boil down Dave's request. As part of the process for site plan review, the CPDC can request a peer review of any traffic study that the applicant may propose. What Dave here is requesting is that he wants to make sure that the traffic study from our conversations covers more than just the one McDonald's site. He's concerned about the entire area running from Washington Street back to Sanborn. Is that a correct assessment, Mr. Talbot?
Mr. Talbot?
Sanborn is a new twist on me, but you mean?
Well, that's the intersection just before the McDonald's.
You mean Bolton?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bolton.
Yeah, I think so. The whole area is a mess right now. I would agree with you. The whole area is terrible right now, and as the speakers have pointed out correctly, and there's multiple reasons for it, this is the one active development project there that there's abundant evidence that it is both the biggest traffic generator and lots of suggestions that they mean to double the traffic. So we should keep looking at this with eyes open and examining if that transpires. What does that do to public safety, pedestrians, bikes, crashes, and the movement of emergency vehicles?
Thank you.
I think I saw a hand on the Finance Committee. No? Oh, yes, okay. Mr. Sullivan?
Sorry. I sneak up.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sullivan, Precinct 7. Just kind of a logistical question. CPDC has opened this, the hearing on this, I believe. Is there a time limit where that hearing has to be completed, and is there a time to do a traffic study before then?
I would defer to Tony or Andrew, who is in the room.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tony DeRezzo, in this case, Vice Chair of the CPDC. There is a time limit. I want to say it is 3 months, Andrew? 20 days. But as the applicant asks for extensions, that time extends beyond. They've already asked for an extension until December. So site plan reviews, depending upon the site plan, can run for several months. I think here we are looking at a confluence in the fact that we have town meeting where we can have an instructional motion while the site plan is going on. I also should have pointed out prior to this, CPDC has not voted on extending the peer review. I don't believe at this point we've even asked for a peer review for the traffic study at this point. CPDC has not taken any votes on this measure or anything else. Thank you.
Yes, in the back, in the back. Yeah. And then I have one over here, then I'll come back to you.
Marlena Beta, Precinct 4. North Reading has a McDonald's. It is not in its town center because it doesn't go there. Stoneham has a drive-through Burger King, not in its town center because it doesn't go there. Wakefield has a drive-through McDonald's, not in its town center because it doesn't go there. Ours doesn't go there. That intersection is busy for so many reasons. But if that business were to leave, and I've read that there are conversations where their legal team has expressed that they would much rather be near a highway, which is where those businesses go, they would be open to that. I don't know where those conversations have since gone. That's all.
And I had one up in the back. Yes, Ms. Alvarado. Then I'll come back to you.
Vanessa Alvarado, Precinct 5. So I have not been following this issue closely. Mr. Zika, or Mr. Talbot, I thank you for bringing this forward. But it does sound to me like, I mean, we live here. We all know this intersection is a nightmare. Is it possible to do a traffic or safety study for that entire area in a way that allows us to make improvements and have CPDC make informed decisions based on the broader impact to the area instead of just focusing it to the McDonald's property? Because it sounds like this is clearly a bigger issue. Everybody hates that intersection. Can we use this as an opportunity to make it better while this is under consideration? And I don't know who that question is aimed at, whether it's the select board as the road commissioners or CPDC or ZBA, who have all been sort of in this. So I'll toss it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Do we have an answer? Mr. Talbot?
I have an answer. Whether it's a good answer, I don't know. But so yes, certainly, I think the study should include the wider context and what solutions might be. We do have an active proposal right now for this project that is actively happening, and to date, the town proper has not weighed in with any kind of safety review or anything from the public safety entities of the town about, well, what does this do to the movement? How does the new ladder truck that we just bought get from the fire station to South Main to one of these new apartment buildings if there's now a doubling at this McDonald's on top of everything else? So that's why there's this specificity in this IM about this particular project. Everybody who has pointed out the wider systemic issues, I think you're absolutely right. I forget your name, ma'am, in the back, but you're absolutely right. All these things are contributing. But this one is the one that's active right now, and there's lots of reasons to be concerned about it.
Mr. Bonazzoli?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. James Bonazzoli, Precinct 6. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Like everybody said, the whole area needs to be looked at. However, I'm not in favor of doing that. It is CPDC's role and responsibility to get tougher with the developers. So if they have an issue with this, then they should say no to McDonald's, and here's why we are saying no. If they haven't done or requested a proper traffic study, that's their problem, not the town manager's problem or the Board of Selectmen's problem. Going back to a couple of the other comments, don't forget, Main Street is a state road. So if you're going to really expand the effort, then you need to get the state involved as well. So this isn't going to happen anytime soon, knowing the way our government moves. And if we were to do the traffic study, that's an expense that I'm not willing to have the town pay for, right? If you want a developer to do it, that's perfectly fine. But what you've all just asked is that we pay tax dollars to do a traffic study for a private entity because we don't like the traffic flow. That doesn't work for me. It's up to CPDC to make that request. And as one of the other town meeting members mentioned, all this is doing is making a request for the flow to, their traffic to flow a little better within their own property. Has nothing to do with Main Street or how they come in or come out, because that is technically exactly the same. If the traffic's truly going to double, then that's CPDC's issue to say, we don't believe your numbers, you need to come back with something better. And we've done that when I was on the board, we've done that with a lot of properties. And so why they're not doing it here, that's a CPDC problem and not the Board of Selectmen and the town manager's problem. Thank you.
Mr. Bacci?
Thank you, Carl Bacci, Precinct 5, Select Board member. And can I ask Andrew a question?
Sure.
To piggyback on Mr. Bonazzoli, and I could be wrong, but Route 28, do we need Mass DOT approval for any changes to a drive-through? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Andrew McNichol, Community Development Director. We would not need MassDOT approval for these driveways. The Main Street portion of the site is in town control and town ownership. If there were changes to the intersection, there's likely some level of MassDOT involvement needed for that, but for this specific site, no.
Okay, thank you. But, and I also agree that the first few sentences don't apply. The Select Board doesn't initiate traffic studies. That's what CPDC does, and we entrust them with that. So, I believe that CPDC will require it, but I think we're a ways off. I attended that first meeting, and I believe they're willing to have a conversation from Mr. Talbot's presentation. So I think we need to go through the process, but I am not in favor of having us as a town pay for a traffic study. And also, if you all remember, Eastern Gateway, and we hired a consultant for that area to connect, Walker's Brook 2, let's call it, to downtown. So a lot of work has been done there, and we know that intersection needs a lot of work. Should we make McDonald's pay for it? Maybe a little bit, or ask them to, but I think the instructional motion has good intent, but I don't think we should be paying for a traffic study. Thanks.
Further discussion? Yes, in the far corner.
And then if I may, I'd like to be able to just quickly respond to that, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, as soon as, after the speaker. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carla Nazaro, Precinct 1. I am going to vote against this instructional motion. I kind of think we're picking on McDonald's a little bit. I have not seen more than 4 cars in the drive-through line at McDonald's. This isn't Chick-fil-A. When I hear you say that they would have 2 service lines, To me, that's better than one service line because you'll never have overflow onto the street. So 2 service lines doesn't mean more customers, it just means a faster rate of service. This is our problem with traffic, it's not McDonald's. If we have a successful business in town, let's not stomp on them. And I don't think we should spend any money for this. And we need to do due diligence with some sort of traffic study. We can't blame it on McDonald's.
Mr. Talbot.
Just to respond briefly to that, McDonald's is spending $6 billion nationwide to reconstruct its restaurants. It's not doing that for flat revenue and flat traffic. It's not adding double the kiosks and double the windows and doubling the exits here to keep the traffic and customer levels the same. Let's not kid ourselves. And the cost doesn't have to be really anything. It can be what do our emergency public safety agencies think of what would happen to movement of emergency vehicles if traffic does, as it could, double to and through this site. That's not necessarily a big lift, and it's not currently, it hasn't happened yet. So to the previous discussion, instructional motions are imperfect. They are non-binding. By voting yes for this, you're simply saying, okay, there's some things I'm worried about here. Let's escalate this a little bit. Let's say as town meeting that we'd like these things looked into a little more rigorously than they have already. That's really all this is. And then at the next meeting, to Jim's point, if the select board says, well, that's not for us to do, or maybe it's just a letter from the fire department, they can figure that out, just as Mr. Zeke said. The details can be worked out. It's just signaling by the body, you know what, maybe there's something here we need to be worried about. And it's too important to just say, nah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, let's vote against it.
Further discussion? Mr. Sasso?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Sasso, Precinct 2. Just a couple comments and questions. When you presented the site plan, it's the first time I saw it. I thought one of the interesting things was that it does now give folks an opportunity to go out on the other side from the drive-through side, which I'm assuming the CPDC is going to force them, anybody coming out on the Main Street side will be a forced right versus being able to take a left. That's actually one of the issues of that place as well. The other point, interestingly enough, I know we just had a lot of work done right there with the Ash Street, Bolton Street, and the MBTA crossing. And I suspect that's probably one of the other issues with that whole intersection. If there was work to be done there, it isn't just a town issue. It's and I think someone mentioned it may be DOT, but also the MBTA on that particular intersection. But I think your point is a good one about just referring to the traffic study from a square footage versus a, what is the actual perspective on a lot of these restaurants? Because they actually have, a lot of them have moved to this double window, and they're reducing a lot of these restaurants are reducing their square footage because they don't necessarily want people inside the restaurant. Exactly. So I think it would be interesting, if not irrelevant, for CPDC to go back to the company and see if they have data from other restaurants where this has been done and what sort of traffic additional generation. But I do think it's a CPDC thing. I think they need to take that responsibility and pursue this. Whether in the end the answer is they get some sort of funding to support other studies or other work, it isn't just McDonald's issue. Some of the previous speakers said, I mean, that whole area, I think, is the result of many years of impacts and not just the McDonald's. But if the CPDC can get something from them for this particular issue and support other improvements, that's great. But I'm not necessarily sure it's something that the select board and the town manager need to spend their time on. But thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Piliowski.
Gena Pilaski, Precinct 7. I move the question.
All right. Is there a second to that? Second? All right. It requires a 2/3 vote. So all those in favor of ending debate, please rise. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
20.
35.
35?
25.
25?
36.
36. And those opposed to ending debate?
Two.
2.
3.
3?
4.
4? 3. The vote being 116 in the affirmative, 12 in the negative. The question has been moved. We will now proceed to a vote on the instructional motion. All those in favor, please raise your cards. And those opposed? And the motion does not carry. Ms. McCarthy?
Thank you. Gratified to see that Tony did vote for it. Thank you, everybody.
Ms. McCarthy, do you have a motion for us?
Move to adjourn, sine die.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of moving to adjourn sine die, please raise your cards. Those opposed? The motion carries. This town meeting is adjourned sine die.